everyone, and welcome to Regent Park TV Weekly News. My name is Fred Alvarado and my co-host,
Murphy Brown.
We present news that impacts on Regent Park and other surrounding communities located in the downtown east communities of Toronto.
In this episode, we present to you the following news stories for the week of September 28, 2021.
Canada's first ever National Day of Truth and Reconciliation is set to take place on September 30th, coinciding with Orange Shirt Day. While Ontario is not recognizing the day as a statutory holiday in the province, there are still events throughout the day in Toronto to honor and support First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. Throughout the week, the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation will be hosting online events and learning opportunities for both schools and the general public. They will also be producing an hour-long special to be hosted on APTN and CBC on September 30th at 9 p.m. One way to acknowledge the day, aside from wearing your orange shirt, is familiarizing yourself with the 94 calls to action put forth by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 2015. The National Film Board of Canada has compiled a list of films and documentaries by indigenous people that you can watch.
Six Nations of the Grand River elected Chief Mark Hill expressed his disappointment that Ontario government, along with Alberta, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, and Quebec, will not observe the new holiday on September 30th. In an open letter to Premier Doug Ford, Chief Hill said the day should be a statutory holiday for all Ontarians to show a commitment toward truth and reconciliation. This past spring, the federal government passed legislation to make September 30th an official federal holiday, including time off for federal employees, and named it Truth and Reconciliation Day to honor the relationship between settlers and indigenous people. The holiday was created after the horrific discovery of previously hidden children's remains buried on numerous former residential school grounds across the country this past summer. While you and many other provincial officials have expressed your commitment to strengthening relationships with First Nations communities, this upcoming statutory holiday is an important symbol indicating a commitment to practical action, Hill said in his letter to Ford. This year has been difficult on everyone, but particularly so for the indigenous communities whose old wounds were reopened upon the discovery of their lost children's remains, Hill said in the letter. Much of Canada will observe this second holiday in September. Federal offices, banks, and post offices will be closed to mark the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Private companies and organizations can decide if they want to honor optional or unofficial holidays. Six Nations of the Grand River employees will be given the day off and are encouraged to wear orange the week of September 27th, leading up to Orange Shirt Day, which was started in 2013 as a way to honor Indigenous children and educate Canadians about the impact the residential school system had on Indigenous communities. The inspiration for Orange Shirt Day came from residential school survivor Phyllis Jack Webstad, who at age 6 on her first day at residential school was stripped of her clothes, including a new orange shirt her grandmother bought for her. Despite the Ontario government's decision not to recognize National Day for Truth and Reconciliation as a provincial holiday, 6 nations will be treating September 30th as a day to honor residential school survivors and the children who never made it home. The 6 Nations of the Grand River is the largest First Nations reserve in Canada and is the only one in North America in which representatives of all 6 Iroquois nations live together. These nations are the Mohawk, Onondaga, Oneida, Seneca, Tuscarora, and Cayuga.
The Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops officially apologized for their role in the country's notorious residential school system for the first time, after refusing to do so for years despite public pressure. In a statement issued on Friday, September 24th, the organization expressed profound remorse and apologized along with all Catholic entities that were directly involved in the operation of the schools. The Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops is the National Assembly of Bishops in Canada, formally recognized by the Catholic Church and part of a global network of conferences. Starting in 1831 and as recently as 1996, Canada's residential school system forcibly separated Indigenous children from their families, subjecting them to malnourishment and physical and sexual abuse in what the country's Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 2015 called cultural genocide. We acknowledge the grave abuses that were committed by some members of our Catholic community: physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, cultural, and sexual, the statement added. We also sorrowfully acknowledge the historical and ongoing trauma and the legacy of suffering and challenges faced by Indigenous peoples that continue to this day. The Pope and the Catholic Church itself have refused to apologize for the Church's role, unlike the Anglican, Presbyterian, and United Churches. Global outrage around the lack of apology spread earlier this year after hundreds of unmarked graves of Indigenous children were discovered at the sites of former residential schools across Canada.
Please know that this was not easy. It has been extremely painful. It has been the worst period in my life in many respects, but I am not alone and you are not alone.
Annamie Paul resigned as leader of the Green Party. The embattled Green Party leader announced on Monday that she has started a process of withdrawing from the role, calling her less than a year at the helm of the party the worst period in her life. Paul's decision to step down comes on the heels of the party initiating a review of her leadership, given the results of last Monday's federal election. Paul said that when the review of her leadership launched this past weekend, she asked herself whether she had it in her to continue in the job, knowing she would be facing an uphill battle.
I just asked myself whether this is something that I wanted to continue, whether I was willing to continue to put up with the attacks I knew would be coming, whether to continue to have to fight and struggle just to fulfill my democratically elected role as leader of this party. And I just don't have the heart for it.
Paul did not take any questions from reporters after making the announcement. In the 2021 federal vote, Paul failed to win a seat or grow the Green seat count in the House of Commons. Moreover, the Greens saw a significant drop in their share of the popular vote after only managing to put a Green candidate on the ballot in 252 of the 338 ridings. It was the fewest number of candidates the party had run in a federal election since 2000. The party placed sixth in overall percentage of the vote, dropping to 2.3% from the 6.5% secured in 2019. In 2021, just 398,775 Canadians voted Green, in contrast to the 1,189,631 votes secured in 2019. Now the Greens will likely be looking to name a new interim leader before launching their second leadership race since the 2019 federal election. There is a struggle that is going on for the soul of the party, Paul said to Green Party members as they head into this new chapter. And to her detractors, Paul said that while they may take small comfort in seeing her go, you will not succeed in the end, and I will look to those other people to take up the baton and to move the party in the direction that I still believe that it can go in, she said. After spending the majority of the federal election campaigning in her home riding of Toronto Centre, Paul placed a distant fourth in her third time running and losing in that riding. The Green Party will be sending 2 MPs to Ottawa for the 44th Parliament. Longtime Saanich Gulf Islands BC MP and former leader Elizabeth May, and rookie Mike Maurice representing Kitchener Centre, Ontario. On Monday, Paul said she has no regrets, but she knew going into the campaign that it was going to be very hard to convince Canadians to vote Green, given she did not have adequate funding or staff and was under the threat of a court process from her party. Paul fought ardently against claims made about her leadership style, suggesting they were based in racism and sexism.
When I was elected and put in this role, I was breaking a glass ceiling. What I didn't realize at the time is that I was breaking a glass ceiling that was going to fall on my head and leave a lot of shards of glass that I was going to have to crawl over, throughout my time as a leader. And when I arrived at that debate stage, I had crawled over that glass. I was spitting up blood, but I was determined to be there. I was determined to be there so that the next time someone like me thinks of running and wonders whether it's possible to be on that stage, they will know that it is possible to do that.
And now we continue with an update of vaccination and COVID-19 in Toronto. A COVID-19 vaccine passport system came into effect last Wednesday, September 22nd in Ontario, requiring people to show proof of vaccination for entry into thousands of non-essential venues across the province. Restaurants, bars, sports venues, gyms, theaters, cinemas, and casinos are among the locations where staff must ask patrons to show certification that they received 2 doses of an approved vaccine at least 2 weeks before, along with identification that matches their vaccination document. To be exempt from Ontario's COVID-19 vaccination requirements, anyone aged 12 and up must provide a written document from a physician or a nurse practitioner on official letterhead stating that there is a medical reason for the exemption. Public health doctors have said medical exemptions are rare and are primarily limited to having a life-threatening allergy to an ingredient in the vaccine or having had an adverse reaction to a first dose.
Toronto Public Health, TPH, has formed a COVID-19 vaccination planning group to get ready to vaccinate children between the ages of 5 and 11 upon Health Canada approval and receipt of vaccine for this age group from Ontario's Ministry of Health. This group includes health partners, school boards, community representatives, and the Ministry of Health. In Toronto, there are approximately 200,000 children aged 5 to 11 who are eligible to get vaccinated. Providing vaccinations for all who are eligible, including children and youth, will help reduce the number of COVID-19 cases in our community and allow children to participate in activities that benefit their health and well-being. Regent Park Community Health Center is running a COVID vaccination clinic at 40 Oak Street. The clinic is open every Tuesday from 2:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. and all are welcome. The Oak Street Clinic uses Moderna and Pfizer vaccines. Anyone born in 2009 or earlier is eligible to receive a COVID-19 vaccine.
Enough is enough. Let me hear you.
And now we continue with a report on Mother's Peace Walk against gun violence and recognizing the National Day of Remembrance for Victims of Homicide. Mothers from across the city and province impacted by the tragic loss of children due to the gun violence walked for peace to recognize the National Day of Remembrance for Victims of Homicide on Saturday, September 25th. The Walk for Peace was organized by several community organizations that are working to engage mothers and families in desperate need of multiple supports to deal with their nerve-ending grief and trauma after losing children to gun violence. The Peace Walk was an opportunity for the mothers to speak out about the impact of gun violence on their lives and an opportunity to say enough is enough.
We need to, all the politicians, they need to speak up and they need to put a stop on this gun violence, and they need to create a meaningful programming and also tighten the gun that has been falling in the hand of young people as well. So we are here, a lot of us who walked from the center to Young and Bloor.
Various local artists were featured as part of the program, speaking about the horrors of gun violence and encouraging people to value their own lives and the lives of others.
Cause you know that I still see him and I cry, oh no.
The most malignant form of cancer, gun violence, is a social determinant of health that must be woven into policy and resourced accordingly by this city's Board of Health. People only seek answers when the shit hits the news. Eaton Center, Danzig, Boxing Day, Danforth, shooting, society's confused. One life is worth more than the other when the media say so. They show news clips on repeat of the few places they go. Quick to get out the way though of the stories about success in the hood. Quick to get out the way though of the stories about redemption in the hood. Quick to get out the way though of the stories about anything good in the hood. And half of these activist groups talking about the proletariat ain't doing shit in the hood. I constantly worry for the youth that I serve. Even young queens far removed from a life of crime have had to swerve out of the way of the path of a bullet, expelled from a gun with a trigger pulled by the finger connected to the hand of the shooter that pulled it.
And that's all for today's show. Thank you for watching Regent Park TV Weekly News Show. My name is Fred Alvarado and my co-host
Murphy Brown.
Thanks for watching and see you next week.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out all of our social media platforms. For more information, check out our website.